Hello there. Welcome back to Blue Heinz Garage. Well, I haven't made a whole lot of progress on this week. Had a few other things back. I had a doctor's appointment to deal with my back that got sore, quite sore, all of a sudden a week ago. So I dealt with that. Helped Scott a little bit on his kitchen one afternoon. Think I showed you I got the 180-pound coilover springs and mounted those here. I believe I showed you that. And I've been doing a little layout work, trying to figure out where I want to put fuel fillers for this vehicle. I've got saddle tanks on here. I think I may have showed you that or told you about that in the other video too. You see, there's the filler for the tank on this side. I've got water on the running boards trying to simulate the weight of the fuel on the springs, you know, for checking out the rating on the coilover springs. Anyway, that's where the fillers for these tanks are intended to go when you buy the tank. And they tell you, they give you information when you buy the tank saying that if you can put those fillers anywhere else and get them up higher, you'd be a lot better off, because it's a pain in the ass trying to fill the tanks where the filler is level with the tank. The fuel doesn't want to hardly go in the tank, you know what I mean? It wants to sit there, or if you're on the slope towards the back, the fuel don't want to run towards the tank at all. Anyway, so like I said, I've been looking for other places. It's in a bad spot. The fillers come, the tanks are on the outside of the frame. Any place you want to put them is in the middle of the frame. How do you cross the frame? And that's kind of a problem. Yeah, obviously you don't want to go down and back up with the filler. You know, it kind of makes a trap, and it ain't going to fill very well with that in it in the fill pipe. So anyway, this was one concept that I thought of, because I can come up along the outside of the frame behind the wheel, go up and come through the side of the bed. So that's one option. Do that on each side, and I think that would work. Scott seems to think it would be quite awkward to put the fuel in, and I don't disagree with that. He's probably right. If you just had the old style normal nozzle on the end of the hose, the gas hose, that wouldn't be any big deal, because when this thing is down on the ground, the height that the bed sides are, you know, roughly waist high, so it's no big deal to reach over. But with these modern nozzles where you got to collapse the nozzle, you know, to try and contain the fumes, that probably would be a bit of a pain doing that. And like he said, you're going to be spilling fuel inside the bed of the truck and stuff, which probably is true too. The other option that I've been considering is bringing the filler back to here, coming up, you see what I'm doing there, coming up through the bottom of the bed, stay on the outside of the frame all the way to the back. It's a little close going around the back side of the coilover. The frame ends up here somewhere, about in the middle of the bed, the frame ends. But so then I got to get, like I said, got to get past the coilovers, because they hang out a little bit towards the tire. I have to do. I'm going to buy some bends. I'm going to buy some mandrel bends, and we can like create an exhaust system. Only instead of being exhaust, it'll be a fuel filler. So I'm thinking about this: a 4-inch square box coming up in this corner with. Hang on a second. Let me go get the. I lied. Actually, it wouldn't be a 4-inch box. It would be more like a 4-inch channel, 3-sided affair with one of these on the top, like you would use in a boat. See, this I've just got it taped, but this is like you would see in the deck of a boat. It mounts flush, and it's got a little center cap that unscrews. Hang on one more time. I have the other one all taped up so I don't damage it and mark it. This one is a 45-degree angle. The other one you see is straight. I bought one of each to see which one would work better. And that's what the top of the taped one looks like too. So that would sit obviously make a lid on this, and that would sit flat in the top. The pipe would come up inside that channel. This would sit on top of the lid. I figure I would make it about 8 inches tall. There's the mark is right there. So it would come up about there. So in the back of each side of the bed, roughly in that position, right there, there would be this channel with a cap on top of it, and this sitting in the top. I forgot. There's one other thing that I did. You see the lights up there? That one? Over the vise? It was, you know, I had the LEDs that I put up in the ceiling before I knew where I was going to have this bench, how I was exactly going to build this bench. I built the bench and did all the rest of the stuff, and you notice there's no light right over the vise where a lot of your work happens. You're trying to cut something on the line, there's no light there. So now there is. I put that up. You see that plug there, that was it. When I wired all these lights, I put J-boxes in that ceiling so I could go in and out. I didn't want to go in and out of the lights, use the lights as a J-box, so I added a box up in the ceiling and did the daisy chaining through the box. So I used one of those boxes, put an extension on it, and put a plug in it, and that feeds that light. This one was a little too far away to use the cord. So again, I put the extension box on it, ran a piece of conduit over to a box where I just hardwired the cord on this one. I ran the cord right into the box. I don't know if you can see that. Is it? Yeah, I guess you can. But you notice it makes the area nice and bright. Those things are LEDs. They make 4,100 lumens. They make a lot of light. And they use 40 watts. So, I mean, it's free almost. So yeah, that helps a bunch. This is an area where you want a lot of light. You're doing, you know, using the drill press, using the wire wheel, using the disc sander. You need a lot of light. I mean, you got to see what you're doing. And the same over here. Anything over the bench, so you need a lot of light. So that's something else I did this week. Little odds and ends. Light duty, you know, light physical stuff. Anyway, see ya. Don't know if you saw this when I was over here a minute ago. I did this too, to kind of get a better visual of what I was dreaming up as far as an enclosure for the fill pipe on the fuel tanks on the Model A. So it's a sketch. Basically it's a sketch because it isn't to scale, not even done with a T-square and a triangle or anything. It's just more or less freehand. I do have dimensions on it, but like I said, it's not to scale, so the dimensions don't really create a very accurate picture, but it gives you the idea. It gives me the idea a week from now, a day from now, what I had in mind. So anyway, that's something else that I was playing with. Okay, well, here we are at it again. Scott got over here yesterday afternoon. We brainstormed about all this fuel filler stuff and came up with yet another idea. And I think it's a good one. So that's kind of what I'm pursuing right now. And I'm doing a bit of a cheat. You see, I've got the jack here. It's hard to show you this because I can't get far enough away from it. You see the pieces of 2x4 up there. I got the bed lifted right now about at least 2 inches up off the chassis. So it's all loose. It's not bolted to anything. So that's it's a risky cheat. You know, I should be getting that lifting hardware I built for this thing and had bolted on there and lift it with the cherry picker. But there's a number of reasons I'm trying to avoid that. First of all, I'm not supposed to be lifting anything heavy, and that thing bolted all together is fairly heavy. I'm trying to do it alone because Scott's still working on his kitchen. And I'm trying to save some time. The idea is, you see this piece of wood right here goes all the way to the front of the bed. The idea at this point is to remove that wood and replace it with some pieces of metal, probably some square tubing where it lands on the chassis for support. Instead of having the 2x4 up there, have pieces of square tubing where the mounts are. The 2x4 obviously adds a little strength, and it spreads out the support. But the thing is, that 2x4 is put in there by the factory so this truck can carry 500 pounds in the bed. I'm probably not going to have a pound in the bed. You know what I mean? And I'm not making it so it can't carry anything, but like I said, it doesn't need the amount of strength it was designed for. So that's what I'm trying to do. We're trying to take that 2x4 out, because by doing that, it gives us more room to run the filler pipe. It gives us a nice avenue to get up and over the frame so we can put the filler up towards the front, if not up at the front. With that 2x4 in there, that whole thing is kind of blocked, and we're running the filler pipe all the way to the back of the truck in order to get up inside the bed. So anyway, that's the theory, and that's what we're trying to accomplish. So you see right now I have this 2x4 and the one on the other side laying on top of that cross member to kind of support the bed. It balances the bed, because when the bed is on the truck, it's heavy in the back. It's attached at the front. If you remove those attachments, it wants to tip over and land on the ground on the back, because the back, it's not centered and it's not balanced. It's heavy on the back. It wants to tip over off the chassis the way it's built from the factory. So anyway, like I said, I'm trying to remove that 2x4 right there, and that 2x4, the one on the side with the 2 holes in it, get it out from in the bed. It's got one more bolt on each of those to remove it. That's what I'm trying to do right now. Well, Wairika got them both out from under there. That's what they look like. So, I don't know if I can show you any more under here. The plan is, at this point, you see these 2x4s we got up in there temporarily. The plan is to take another support from this cross member, the chassis frame cross member, take a support back underneath this bed channel, back so that I can support this back bed channel that goes across the back of the bed. Take a support from here back, and one on the other side from that same location, probably off here on the angle, so it's a little wider. Come straight back like the 2x4 is now underneath this support. So put a support on this side and another support on that side that picks up the back of the bed. So it will actually be supported better when we're done with it than it was coming out of the factory. Because Ford had the cross member going right over the top of the rear end. It didn't come back at this far, even as far. This one here is done, and then on the factory pickup there was a metal plate in the bed where the rear end sat, because there wasn't enough clearance. The cross member went up so high that they had to cut the wood in the bed to allow the cross member room, and they put a metal plate where the cross member removed the wood. This one here is an aftermarket frame, and in order to avoid that, they go around the back of the pumpkin instead of over the top of it. So, like I said, we're going to come back off of that rectangular cross member that they got going around the back side of the pumpkin. We're going to come straight back off of that and put a support on each side to pick up the rearmost cross member in the bed. Okay, well, let's see if I can show you what removing that wood that was under here opened up as far as avenues for running that fuel inlet. Okay, you see the wood was up in this area right through here, where you see that little step there. That was filled up by a roughly the size of a 2x4 piece of material. You see that little bracket that comes down? There's a bolt in there. Let me see if I can show you the bolt. There's the top of it. There's a bolt in there that goes down and into a nut that's welded in the frame. That's what mounts the front of the box. So what I'm attempting to do right now, since we removed the wood, I'm making some box pieces that will fill the void from the top of this piece down to where it lands on the webbing. So that flat piece you see there that goes from the side, the vertical on the side, to the bracket with the bolt where the bolt is, will be filled with 1/8 inch thick material. It'll be 2 sides and a bottom. So it actually will create a box. What I'm doing is creating a box. I'll make the pieces, we'll put them up there, and we'll weld it all into one piece. That bracket will then be a box that goes from the bed down to the frame with a bolt going through it. And on the back, so you see this runs full length. This channel here runs full length. On the back there's a, you see that other bolt? Kind of hard to film this. There's a pad on the outside. Let me go on the outside and show you from the other side. Wow, this is difficult at best. There's a pad on the outside here. Right there. And right now I have a pipe spacer in there. I'm going to do the same thing with that, from that tab, that flat tab with the bolt and the nut coming through it. I'm going to make a vertical with a flat top and the round on the outside. Got a piece of tubing that I'm going to cut and make the radius, and I'm going to make a 1.5 inch thick filler that will go from the tab to the bottom of the flange that supports the bed. That angle piece that supports the bed, where the bolt and the pipe is underneath, that'll be, again, 2 sides and a top in this case that the bed will sit on. And then what we're going to do in the back is, see if I can move around under here. I'm on the ground now, not up on the lift because the lift is being used. What we're going to do here is remove this cross member. And we're going to, from right about here, we're going to come straight back. I got more of this material, this 2x3 material. We're going to stand it up so it's 3 inches tall, right, and 2 inches wide. We're going to come straight back to about 1 inch from this bed cross member. We're going to come straight back with it standing up. We're going to go right straight across, about 1 inch in front of that cross member, and then go back and tie it in right here. We're going to cut this straight, and we're going to put the 2x3 coming straight back and then go across the back. And then on the back of that, once that's sitting here 1 inch off of this cross member, we'll put a little tabs, probably a tab on this side and a tab on that side, and support the back of the bed, because right now the back of the bed just kind of hangs out in thin air. So we'll support the back of the bed at least a foot back further than it used to be supported. I think that'll make it a lot more stable. But anyway, that opens up all kinds of avenues towards running that fuel filler. I won't complicate things right now trying to describe all of that. I'll kind of describe it and show it to you later. I think, see, there's the filler. See the elbow? That's what you see. The cap is on the outside of that, going through the splash apron. That's going to go. That's all going to go away. The tank is up here in the front. You can just barely see it where that hose is going into the tank, or attached to the tank. All right, and that's all for now. See you later. Thanks for watching. Bye. Okay, so here's that support I was telling you about. See, this is going to go this way. This will be, in other words, this will be facing like this. Right now you see it's all clamped together. The square tube on the inside is just a fixture being used right now to locate things. What you're seeing here, this piece right here, will be the bottom. And it'll come out and it'll mount to the sides that are already there. That bracket that you saw with the bolt going through it has this end. The end is curved on that piece that's there right now. The bolt is roughly where the clamp is attached. And what I did is I left this to be filled with weld like you do boxing on a frame, you know. I left this, there's a 1/16 here that will fill with weld material. Use filler weld, when you weld. Right now I'm going to kind of tack that together. I've got a MIG here. I'm going to just tack the corners, the front and back corners, I think, and then bring it to Scott so he can weld it. I'm going to try and tack it anyway. So I can get rid of the clamps and do the second one. See, I've got enough material here to do a second one too. Sorry, I'm moving things around trying to do two things at once. There's the two sides, and there's the bottom of a second one. Okay. So like I said, I want to try and tack this one so I can take the clamps and the square tubing or whatever, clamp up the second one and tack that one together. And then I'll get busy making the back one. See, there's the piece of 3-inch tubing to make the radius for the front of that rear mount on top of the tab. And this one's 1 3/4 inches tall. That one's 1.5 inches tall. So there's the piece for the 1.5 inch part. Anyway, bye. Okay, well, there's the pieces that I was describing earlier for the front bed mount. That's the bottom you're looking at. So I got to drill a hole right there and right there for that bolt to go through. These are going to be this way. They go to the outside of the bed like that, underneath that bracket that's already there. Remember the bracket I was showing you with the bolt going through it? And you see what I've done here. I used a piece of square tubing and some flat stock as spacers, so I could make this do that. That gives room for a weld, filler material that then we can grind flat without removing material and weakening the strength. It's like you would box a frame. So there we go. That's probably a day's worth of work. I don't have a bandsaw. I mean, I've got that, a Portaband, but I don't have a bandsaw that you could put these pieces. These pieces they're 2-inch flat stock that I had to cut down to 1 5/8 and then make sure it was square and parallel and all that stuff. It takes a lot of time. And obviously put the radius on. All that good stuff. So I'm about to head over to Scott's, my son's house, and he's going to weld these. He's the welder. I'm not. I can fabricate, but I don't weld. So he's going to TIG these in these two corners. And you can see obviously I got a collection of clamps on them. Anyway, I'm heading over there right now. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. Bye. Okay, well, there they are, all welded and ground. Ready to go. I know I got to fit them. I tried one of them and it's a tiny bit too long. It doesn't fit in the opening that's available for it. I made the sides tiny bit too long evidently. It's hard to get an accurate measurement laying on your back under there. You can only get so close to what you're trying to measure. So I'll try and measure it again, and then I got to drill the holes in the bottom. I think what I'm going to do is put a piece of pipe inside of it so it can't get crushed. A crushed leaf. And then they're ready to install. Well, hopefully this weekend, Scott can get over here and we can tack them in place. Maybe put it up on the lift so he can stand under it and weld them, tack them in place. It's kind of hard with the TIG to do that laying on your back because it's hard to work the pedal. And then once they're tacked in, then I can remove the bed and we can do the final welding with the bed off the truck where you can actually have some good access. So tomorrow I'm going to try and make the other ones that use the round piece of tubing on the outside edge, because that's the way the tab is made. The tab is made, it's 3-inch wide tab with a radius on the end of it. So I'm going to try and make the upper piece to look just like that tab. And the legs obviously will have to come out and have a radius on the face of them. So that's what the tube is for. Anyway, we'll see how that works out. And first thing I'm going to do is try and install these, drill the holes for the bolts, and sandwich them in there. Get the area all cleaned up, ready for welding. where they meet the existing material. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.